So you want to stop suffering. Let me try and help you out with that. With the 31 years of addiction, of drugs, alcohol, sex, now being sober for 4 years, I have learned quite a bit in my life. And let me try and summarize that for you. So the first thing you want to know is what suffering is. And I know that sounds stupid. Everyone knows what suffering is. But let's get into a little bit more detail about it. Now, some people will say, suffering is, pain. Oh, I got hurt. That's a form of suffering, but that's an inevitability. Like, there's going to be times where we fall down, get hurt, sick, illness, that type of stuff. That's the type of suffering that is inevitable, right? But the kind that I'm talking about is a suffering that we cause in ourselves. These are the cases that we don't really take a good look at. Our mind takes control over our thoughts, and all we do is focus on one generalized thing. And a lot of the times that suffering is coming from those thoughts that we're having. Now, looking at some of the key components of what suffering is when it comes to the cravings, it boils down to cravings, attachments. Like when you're attached to an outcome, expectations can be another way of saying that. If you're expecting something to happen, a great story on this is one of the things I learned a little while ago in life is that I was opening a door for someone and I was expecting them to say thank you. And this was in my addiction, by the way. And during that time period, I wasn't in the best headspace. And since they didn't say thank you, I immediately thought I wanted to fight them. Like I literally physically wanted to punch them. Now, again, that's not, that's not what we should be doing or even thinking, right? But it did anger me. And I was talking to somebody that actually kickstarted me on my, I guess you could say rabbit hole down like psychology and motivation. And basically, they looked at me and said, "Why'd you hold open that door?" And I said, "Well, I was doing it because it was the right thing to do." And they said, so it wasn't for the thank you. And that just like light bulb went off. And I was like, damn, no, I wasn't saying it for the thank you. But with the way my thought process was, like my expectation was everyone should say thank you. And that's not a common expectation. That's not something that's going to be sustainable throughout the rest of my life, because not everybody's going to say thank you, and that's okay. As long as I'm doing it for me, I'm doing it for the right reason, right? Like you get a little serotonin rush out of something like that. Anytime you help somebody, you're getting a little bit of serotonin. So that's one of the benefits from doing it. Now, again, I'm not saying to go help out everyone constantly, because you'll just burn yourself out as well too. So like I was saying, attachment is going to be something that is to watch out for. Attached to a situation, we can be attached to so many different things. Cravings, looking at the fact that, oh my goodness, I need this in order to be happy. And a lot of the times you don't need anything to be happy. Like we attach our things, or we have these cravings for this external world. And no matter what we do externally, we may be happy for a second, right? There's always that need, that want. I want an apartment. I was living in a sober living for quite some time, and I wanted an apartment. Got an apartment. What's next? Now I'm going to want a house. After that, I'm going to want a mansion. From there, I'm probably looking at my own private island. I don't know where I'm going to go from there. My next want would probably be my own planet. So I don't know if they're selling those these days, but something to look out for. But my point is stop wanting. Like, be grateful for what we have. Just be mindful in this moment, and just be grateful for this, everything around you, everything that you have, your life. I don't want to say attachments, because of the fact that is definitely a root cause of suffering. Once you attach yourself to materialistic things, like, oh, I can't live without that. You can live without anything except for a couple things, right? Food, water, air. Like, those are things that we need to live. Like, without those, inevitability, matter of time, we're going to die. So keep that in mind. Some other things too is like delusion, ignorance. Sometimes we disattach ourselves from reality. Like, we think reality should be a certain way. And just kind of like I was saying before, like everybody should, have the expectations of everybody having manners. But detaching ourselves from reality, right? And we have to be careful of that. Well, I was helping out one of my clients, and they were telling me about how had a birthday party. And during that time period, the family was getting together. They were going to go out and drive somewhere. One of the family members said, "Hey, what time is this like really going to start? What time is this going to be over with?" Now, my client flipped their lid and they got really pissed off, and they basically said, "We're not going, forget this," and was really upset. Now, the funny thing is at the moment, they were letting their emotions rise. That suffering that they caused in their own head, thinking, "Oh, this person doesn't even want to come to my birthday party," when that wasn't even the case. Again, making expectations or judgments upon something that we don't even know about. All we had to do, or all my client had to do, is simply ask, "Hey, why are you asking that question?" Because sometimes we think we know something, and that's the dangerous part about everyone, because we think we know something, and that's due from our past experiences in life. So our past dictates, or we think we can predict the future. And I promise you, none of us can predict the future, because if that was the case, we would all be millionaires. We'd all win the lottery because we would be able to predict those numbers. But since we can't, we got to keep that in mind. So moving forward, let's take a good look at ourselves, and, maybe stop judging others, and not jumping to conclusions right away when we think, worst case scenario, because our mind's trying to tell us that. We have that primordial instinct, where our mind's always telling us, like, look out for danger. Now, of course, we don't have the saber-toothed cats, bears, we have, but I mean, not roaming around unless you live out in the wilderness. But in that case, if you don't, like most of us who live in the city or whatever, a rural metro area, you're not going to have those kind of dangers. So our brain's looking for these dangers that sometimes it's just creating some stupid shit up that doesn't even exist. Just like, "Oh, he doesn't want to come to my birthday party anymore." Now, some other ones along the lines are going to be like hatred, also known hatred, aversion, anger, fear, resentment. Now, those ones I think we can all relate to. I know that those were all, like, during my 31 years of addiction, I know that I was, every day I had at least one of those going, most of the time probably two or three. I was always resenting myself for who I was. I always had fear of what was going to happen next, and I was always angry, not just at the world, but I truly know it to this day, I was angry at myself. And that's something you have to be really cautious of, because once you start getting angry at yourself, you start disconnecting from yourself, you stop loving yourself. This causes so many problems, because once you don't love yourself, you're looking at losing touch with reality. You will lose touch with yourself and who you are, who you want to become. And that is a dangerous road to walk down, because I will tell you this, in my time, I know I was drinking to the point where I didn't even care if I was going to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but this is a form of suicide, actually. Yeah, I didn't want to pick up a gun and shoot myself in the head, but I was okay with drinking or doing drugs every day, to the point where I know that was going to take years away from my life. And I've had many, many friends right now die from so many different causes, from suicide, actually putting a gun in their mouth, to cirrhosis of the liver. So when it comes to loving yourself, I'd say this is like one of the most important things. I say loving yourself has, so much to do with past trauma, as well as, suffering, because once we start loving ourselves, then, we can actually start letting go of some of this anger, some of this fear, some of this resentment that we have. And anger, fear, and resentment is going to be, I believe, the top three for all of us. Like, I know that was something I struggled with immensely. I was a very angry person. In fact, one of my most favorite scenes from, like, Avengers was Captain America looked at the Hulk and said, "Hey, you may want to suit up, or you may want to get angry." And he said, "I'm always angry, Cap." So that to me just shows, like, how I valued anger as well. Now, I guess you could say I still value anger, because I know it is a valid emotion, but it's not an emotion that I jump to right away. It's something that does come up occasionally, but it's going to be very rare, along the lines of me rewiring my thought process to the point where I know now that anger isn't going to solve anything for me. It's just going to make things worse. Same with fear, same with resentment, right? Resentment, just having that resentment towards yourself or others. Expectations has something to do with resentment towards others. Maybe also yourself as well. Like, you expect your life to be a certain way, whether it be you're rich, everyone likes you. And by the way, people pleasing, that's great. I understand, but if you are a people pleaser, please be careful. Like, actually, don't even be careful. Start switching that mindset, because you know what? People pleasing is one of the worst things. I understand that, some things like customer service, you want people to like you. You can't walk around being pissed off, telling everyone to F off all the time. And again, it has something to do with anger. But people pleasing is something that is going to get you lost. You're not going to love yourself, because if you truly love yourself, you're going to realize that not everyone is supposed to love you or even like you. The universe, God, they didn't put you on this planet for everyone to like you. So keep that in mind. Like, just be really cautious of that. And know that the only person that truly matters is you. As long as you love who you are and who you're becoming, the rest of society, the rest of everyone else truly doesn't matter. As long as you're staying true to your morals and ethics. Now, looking at all of these is going to be a great way of understanding where some of this suffering comes from. Now, trying to get a hold or trying to get a grasp on it is going to be something a little bit more difficult. This is going to be kind of like riding a bicycle. You're not going to just hop on that bike and start riding off. Maybe some of you have, great. And you know what? Maybe some of you will do this, and that's going to be a wonderful thing as well. But most of us are going to take a little bit of time, which again is totally fine, because everything happens in your time. Not my time, not his, not hers, no one else's time but yours. So take your time with this and really look at what you need to do in order to start dissecting your thought process, in order to understand why you're causing yourself to suffer. Because a lot of times it could be what we just went through, the past, the future. There's just so many different things we cause ourselves to suffer from. But once we've actually know why we're suffering, there's a couple different things that I like to do in order to help ground myself and bring myself back and actually ease or stop that suffering. The first thing is, we can look at the parasympathetic nervous system. So what that boils down to is, I have some other videos on this as well, where box breathing, you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold that for 4 seconds, and you keep repeating that for a couple minutes. Another great one is physical, like splashing cold water on your face, standing in a superhero pose for a couple minutes, or simply doing some jumping jacks, just changing that physiological aspect of where that state you're in. Because let's just put it this way, if I'm slumped over and I'm talking like this, well, that's great. I mean, you're going to know I'm depressed. But if I'm sitting straight up, shoulders back, and I'm talking with, I don't want to say passion would probably be the best word, then I'm not depressed, right? So our physiological signs will actually dictate our thought process as well. So change those physiological things. Box breathing is another one. Superhero pose, like I said, these are all great techniques in order to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system in order to change your hormonal structure. Because once you start doing that, you're going to start taking some of that cortisol and the stress hormones away. Now, again, this isn't going to solve your suffering. Sometimes it may, but most of the time it won't. So once you do that and just take a few seconds, minutes to do that, you'll, calm yourself down, and then you can take a look at why you're suffering, right? You're going to go over that thought process and take a good look at it and ask yourself why. What is causing me to suffer at this moment? And take a look. And once you do that, and once you can start putting your finger on it, would be the best way to describe it, is being okay with that, right? Because guess what? In life, just like this yin yang symbol behind me, you've got to have good, you've got to have bad, you've got to have ugly, beautiful, you've got to have miserable. suffering, and then you're going to have happiness, peace. So you're going to have that balance. Once you come to the reality that, life is a balance and it's okay to feel that way sometimes, like that's going to be somewhat freeing. So just take a good look and label that at the moment and say, why am I angry? Why am I resentful? Why am I fearful right now? And once you do that, then you can actually move forward from that, and you can actually start bringing yourself from that. Because once we put our finger on it, then we can actually say, hey, this is something I'm feeling right now, instead of trying to fight it. Because whenever you try and fight a feeling or emotion, like, oh, I shouldn't be fearful right now, or I shouldn't be angry, or you know what, that's making me angry, and like I know better, and whatever your mind is telling you, or you're basically holding on to it more, right? Whenever we tell ourselves we shouldn't be doing something, just like our parents, hey, don't date that guy or don't date that girl, what do? You end up dating them. So in this case, be okay with that, right? Just like your parents. If they said, hey, I like so-and-so, whoever they are, you'd be like, damn, I don't want to date them anymore, right? It's the same thing with our emotions, our feelings. We're going to let go of those so much easier because we're not going to have to hold on to them. Now, the other thing too is mindfulness. I have preached this so many times. Mindfulness is just like a key to peace and happiness, I guess you could say. Now, it's not always going to solve the problem, but being mindful is absolutely amazing. There's so many times that I use it. Like, I'll be driving in my car to work, and I'll be thinking to myself, I'll be playing out my day, future tripping, and saying, hey, this is going to happen next. This is going to happen. What do I have to do? And all this. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. Like, I'm actually creating stress in my own head because of my day that hasn't even started. I haven't even gotten to work yet, and I'm just driving in my car creating this chaos. As soon as I start seeing that, I actually pull away and I close my eyes and meditate in my car. So if I've hit you in my car, I apologize. I am just kidding. I have never meditated in my car. But there is a great way, or a form of meditation you can use in order when you're driving or walking, that you're still paying attention. And that's when you're driving, you can just simply sit there and not think about anything and literally concentrate on the road. Because most of us, when we're driving, I think we've all had this happen, to where you're driving and next thing you know, you end up at your destination. You're like, oh, wow, how the hell did I get here? What route did I take? Why? Because you're not even thinking. Your mind is off thinking of so many other different things. So tune that back and just sit there and focus on that one thing, and that's driving. Look at the cars around you. Look at the trees. Look at the sunset. Look at the sky. Like, just take in everything, but pay attention to everything that's around you, because the more you're paying attention, the more you're letting go of that thought process. Plus, it's going to help your driving out completely. Once you see everything around you, then you're taking that information in, and it's going to make you actually a safer driver. So same thing with like walking around. If you were walking in a dark alley, right? Well, and again, this is a great example, because if you're walking in a dark alley, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and simply say, let me think about how my day went, or let me think about tomorrow? Most of the time, most people are going to sit there and think like, oh my goodness, I don't want to get robbed, shot, killed, murdered, raped, whatever the case may be. So their senses are heightened, and you're just paying attention to every little thing, one little movement, a bag rustling, anything, and you're just everywhere, right? That's because you're mindful, you're focused right there in that moment. And that's what I believe we should all be like, because we waste so much time on our thought process of the past and the future, when we actually forget this moment is the most important. It's the only thing that we have. We're not guaranteed a future. The past is already gone. It doesn't matter. Now, this moment, though, is all we have, and we take that for granted so much. So when it comes to suffering, think of this moment, right? Because if you are in pain or you have illness, it's an inevitability, right? There's impermanence going on, right? Nothing is permanent, though, right? Even our illness, our sickness, pain, whatever you want to call it, it's never going to last forever. There's definitely things that you can do in order to help yourself out. So I hope this helps you, and check out some of my other videos. And I really hope everyone's having an amazing day, and I love you all, and I wish you the best. And when you apply these, let me know. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe, and tell me if you've tried these or if you're going to try these. Have an amazing day, guys. Love you.